Well, it's quiet out there, folks, as you might imagine. Just a couple of days before Christmas. It's a Monday, but it feels like a kind of a lost day, a day with no identity, if you will. I guess this time of year, that's what it feels like. Usually, a Monday morning has a kind of a vibe, but it almost feels like a holiday vibe already. And I think a lot of people, I would say the majority of people, if possible, have taken the full week off and then take another week off again next week. So it's that time of year, but we don't take time off. We keep trucking because we're here to keep you informed and keep you up to date on the very latest to what's going on. And, of course, what's happening in Ottawa. That's right, the drama continues. And we'll talk about all of this with Don Desserud later in the show. Tim Powers will join us today. We got Tim Powers for half an hour, 10:30 to 11, so look forward to that. Again, we're doing some longer interviews today because we got a little bit of time, so we're going to do it that way. We're going to take our time with some of these people. Tim Powers and Mark Brewer will join us after the 12 o'clock news. University of Maine political science professor, talk about all things U.S. politics. And as mentioned, Don Desserud. And we'll take your calls as we do, of course, between 11 and 12, rather. So I'm sure that some of you might still want to talk politics, but look, we got a few other things that we can get to as well, including a question that I'm going to ask you. What are your holiday must-watches? What do you absolutely have to watch when it comes to the Christmas season? And I've probably got two or three, not nearly as many as a lot of people, but on my list for sure would be Charlie Brown's Christmas, which we watched last night. We couldn't find it anywhere for free. So Kelly had to rent it. I think it was $4.50 or something like that, which wasn't a big deal, but it's always a must-watch for me. Charlie Brown's Christmas, and there are others as well. Love Actually is one of them. That's a must-watch. I would say National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. It's a Wonderful Life. I would say that those would be on my top 4, top 5 for sure. The Grinch. Dr. Seuss's Grinch, of course. The original classic. So what are your must-watches when it comes to the Christmas season? What do you have to absolutely make a point to watch and never fail to do so during this time of year? And again, there's a long list. I'm sure that you've got it on. You've got some things on your list. Those are just some on mine. Holiday must-watches, and that and anything else you want to talk about during the open hour between 11 and 12. Thank you so very much for tuning in and listening, folks. We appreciate it very much. As mentioned, a new look cabinet for Justin Trudeau includes Darren Fisher, who, of course, is a Nova Scotia Halifax area member of Parliament. He takes over the Veterans Affairs portfolio for at least a couple of months until this government is dissolved, which it looks like it's going to happen. This story on the Global News website this morning: pressure is mounting on the Prime Minister to step down, with a growing number of Liberal MPs joining calls for his resignation after a chaotic week for his party. More than 50 of the 75 Liberal MPs from Ontario held a one-hour meeting on Saturday to talk about their party's leadership. And so it's pretty evident now that the writing's on the wall. Justin Trudeau is talking to nobody, completely hunkered down. No, canceled all his year-end interviews, has nothing to say right now, and I guess I don't know. I would respect him if he would come out and talk. If he would just come out and do a press release or a news conference or a scrum or something, or sit down with somebody and just and talk to Canadians. Hiding is not the answer. That will never ingratiate him to the electorate. That'll only make things worse as far as I'm concerned. Maybe I'm wrong. But if I were his top strategist, the first piece of advice I would give him would be to get yourself in front of a camera and some microphones and get out there and answer the tough questions. It's not like you're helping yourself by not doing that. I think transparency is always the best option. And yeah, it's going to suck. It's going to be, nobody wants to face the firestorm that is the media right now, but what's the alternative? The alternative is a vacuum which gets filled with other people's opinions and other people's comments. At least you get out in front of it. I would think when it comes to crisis management, that's crisis management 101. Get out in front of it. Shape the narrative if you can possibly do so. Either that or just get it over with and step down. I don't know what he's holding out for at this point. I either one or the other. Either get out in front of it and get in front of a group of media and say, I'm in this fight and I'm going to stay in this fight and face the music, or quit. One of the two. But you have to do one or the other, and it has to be extremely soon, like this week. And I know that it sucks because it's Christmas time, and that's the last thing that anybody wants to deal with over the Christmas break, but this is politics, and it's not a regular job. It's not a 9 to 5. It's not like he's punching a clock somewhere. He's the prime minister. The country needs to get this solved. And the Liberal Party needs to get it resolved, and we need to move on with one or the other. So that would be my advice to Justin Trudeau. One of those two things, but either you can't just stay in hiding. That's just not an option as far as I'm concerned. So what is your take on that? Well, again, we'll find out when we chat with you and take your calls between 11 and 12. So thanks so much for tuning in and listening. And as mentioned, we're going to have a nice chat with Claudia Chender, NDP leader. Claudia Chender, this will be a bit of a year-ender, but lots to talk about. Thanks for doing this today.
Yeah, nice to talk to you, Todd. How are you?
I'm well. Yourself?
I'm doing good.
Excellent. How closely do you follow federal politics? I imagine you probably look at it quite closely, being a political person yourself.
Well, my focus is always on Nova Scotians, but it's been hard to avoid these days, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has. And to that, are you partisan in that? Do you by default support the federal NDP?
Look, I support whatever happens in Ottawa that's going to make life better for Nova Scotians. That is always our focus. And, from that point of view, I think we've talked a lot in the last few days, many people, about the need for some cohesion provincially and, from Nova Scotia. Certainly, I don't think, sort of grandstanding and picking every fight with the federal government is the way to go, which we've certainly seen a lot of from our current government. So, when there are good opportunities for Nova Scotians on the table, I think it's incumbent upon us to look at them. But yeah, no, we're pretty equal opportunity when it comes to Ottawa.
Okay, so at this point, you wouldn't be necessarily or supporting Jagmeet Singh, or yes or no?
Well, we are always we're in conversation, obviously, with the federal party, and in general, we share a similar outlook. But I think that outlook is about making people's lives better. So, I think right now, certainly, I heard what you were saying off the top about the Prime Minister talking to Canadians or making a decision. I think that makes a lot of sense. But I think, again, my view is always what's going to make life better for Nova Scotians. And so aside from the drama, when I look at Ottawa, I see, money on the table for healthcare. I see money on the table for the isthmus. And these are all things that this government has decided to sort of grandstand about instead of get on with. Same with childcare. We just had a budget update here in Nova Scotia where we saw that our government underspent both on housing and childcare, two areas where we need way more capacity, and where there again is money on the table from Ottawa. So that's our focus always is, how can the federal government help us to help Nova Scotians?
You have some concerns that a lot of the federal government and a lot of these federal programs invest too much into bureaucracy, like the Housing Accelerator Fund and the strings attached that was associated with that, and building bureaucracy and not enough actually shovels in the ground and projects being built. What are your thoughts on that?
Listen, I think that's going to be a better question for, an Ottawa watcher or a political scientist. But what I can say is, we have a pharmacare bill that passed in Ottawa. And, we have many, many Nova Scotians who have been fighting for years, myself included, for free birth control for people in Nova Scotia. It makes sense. It saves money. It's healthcare. And yet we don't have it. We don't have that. That's not bureaucracy. That's a check that's going to allow us to change our formulary so that people can have more upstream access to healthcare. When it comes to the isthmus, my understanding is that that's not bureaucracy. There's money on the table. I can't speak to the Housing Accelerator Fund specifically, but But I can say there's some good projects that have gotten off the ground from that fund here in Nova Scotia, and that we need a lot more just like them. When I look at things like Akuma here in Dartmouth, that has built incredible, rent geared to income housing for folks who really need it. I think ADSM was the recipient of some of that money who have built similar projects. So government can always improve. There's no question. But again, I think when there is an opportunity to make life better for Nova Scotians, when there's an opportunity to improve healthcare or housing, which we know, because there's been a lot of polling lately that almost all Nova Scotians agree are our top two problems, I think we need to take the money and build with it however we can.
Right, you talked about the latest budget here, and the latest budget, latest budget rather. The Nova Scotia government forecasting a deficit of $247 million. That's up. That's an improvement. That's because of a $467 million, or rather $219 million improvement from the $467 million deficit dedicated. So increased revenue due to more taxation. That's always, I guess, a good thing. But you're saying that some of that money should have been spent on housing. Kind of expand on that, if you will.
Well, there's a couple things. I mean, one thing is we have a really disturbing pattern of the government coming out every year and saying we're going to run a deficit, which in and of itself, I think some people have issues with, like let's figure out how to spend the money properly. But then this time of year, last 3 years, every year, they say, oh, no, we have more money than we thought. Don't worry about it. Oh, and by the way, we're spending all that money in a way that is totally unaccountable to Nova Scotians. In every other province in this country, Todd, you have to go before the representative of all Nova Scotians, our legislative assembly, and talk about how you're going to spend the money. That's why we have a budget process. We're going to do it this spring. We're going to spend weeks kind of going through the government's budget with a fine-tooth comb. This is going to be, every single year this government has been in power, they've spent at least $1 billion outside of that process. They don't ask, they don't tell. We get a photocopied set of pages that says, oh, by the way, here's the extra $1 billion we spent. And don't bother asking for freedom of information because it'll take 3 years and it'll all be redacted. That's a terrible process. I mean, partisans who like the government are going to say, well, we trust them. They're doing a good job. But that's not really the point. The point is, what kind of systems do we have? Because what if you didn't trust them? And what if you thought they were doing a bad job? Or what if they are and you don't know? So we have a serious problem when it comes to financial accounting. But yes, also, how is that money being spent? Again, we're underspending housing. We're underspending housing when we have a housing crisis. We're underspending childcare when I talk to people every week who are leaving the province because they can't find childcare and so they can't work. And the other thing is we're coming up against some pretty intense headwinds when it comes to our province's finances. Those immigration numbers have dropped precipitously. That money's coming in because people are coming in. And those people aren't coming anymore. We might be facing these tariffs that everyone's been talking about south of the border. So, this has been the kind of main nugget of all the drama in Ottawa. Are they managing their finance as well? This was the finance minister's sort of the bomb that she dropped. But, we need to ask the same question here in Nova Scotia. Are we managing our finances correctly? I really do think that this government has decided that the, provincial purse, our money, is their own personal bank account to do what they want with. And what they want to do is make sure they get reelected. So there's going to be winners and losers. If you're going to spend that much money, you're going to do some good things, no doubt. But what we need is a responsible government. And, we're really stretching the boundaries of what that means right now in Nova Scotia.
All right, you talked about getting reelected, and man, they sure did get reelected with a 2/3 supermajority. Sure. So if you're Tim Houston and you're the finance minister, you say, what the hell seems to be working? The electorate seems to like us. What's your response to that?
Yeah. Well, my response is, if the electorate likes you, does that mean that you can not do away with democratic norms and responsible government? I mean, I don't think so. I think, this is a conversation we have to be having. Absolutely. They got reelected. They have a mandate. And you know what that means? That means that if they bring those expenditures before the legislature, they will always pass, right? They have a majority. Yeah. They have nothing to worry about.
Right. So at least be transparent.
Don't want to go. They don't want to have the inconvenience of telling the public how they're going to spend the money because there's no risk to them, Todd. Like, they're going to spend the money. So just tell us how you're going to spend it. Tell us where you're going to build schools. Tell us where you're going to build roads. Tell us how you're going to fund healthcare. These are all things that, they keep secret because they want to control the message, until there's going to be an election and they can spend all of our money sending us out a booklet telling us, how well they've done. But nonetheless, this is what I mean. They do have a majority. People are giving them the benefit of the doubt. We saw that. So at least do them the honor and the respect of telling them what you're doing. And they're not doing that right now. And I think people, obviously, for lots of the reasons we're talking about, should be concerned about that.
Okay, a few other things to chat about, but I need to put you on hold. You mind waiting over the break, Claudia?
No, that's fine.
All right, great stuff. We'll be right back with Claudia Chender. All right, continuing our chat with Claudia Chender, leader of the NDP, the official opposition leader, of course. Claudia, I wanted to get your take on healthcare. This is a huge file. It obviously impacts hundreds of thousands of people. And what are your thoughts on this new mandate and healthcare? And has Tim Houston delivered so far on healthcare?
Well, I think what we've really come to understand is that when we talk about Nova Scotians needing health care, what they mean is that they want to be attached to primary care. So they might mean that they want a doctor, but what that means now is there's a doctor's office that has my file. When I'm sick or concerned, I can call that office and I can get care. So it's consistent care. And by that measure, no, there has not been success on that file. We know that we still have more than 100,000 Nova Scotians who don't have that access, who aren't attached in that way. And so, as I said, I think if you spend a lot of money, you're going to have some successes. So people do, like having the convenience of a pharmacy clinic for what those can provide. Those mobile clinics are useful in a pinch, but the state of our emergency rooms is deplorable. And we still have so many Nova Scotians who are not attached to primary care. So we think very, very firmly that this is an issue of focus. This government needs to focus on opening primary care doctor clinics that have doctors, but also other healthcare practitioners, and attaching Nova Scotians to those clinics as quickly as possible. And that has not been the focus. We need that focus. So, people want to give them the benefit of the doubt. What's the impact of the election? Well, I think the impact of the election is that people recognize that healthcare transformation is hard, and they're willing to continue to give this government a chance. But this government now has no choice but to live up to that expectation that Nova Scotians have. And so far, I would say that they haven't. I think we've seen a ton of spending, but, we've got shiny offices in the Nova Centre, the Innovation Hub. We saw, Tim Houston write a $43 million check to Google. It's called an unsolicited bid. Google showed up and said, hey, why don't we help your search capacity in health records? And the Premier said, sure. But, do we need to spend $43 million on searching health records? Is that the priority? I mean, there's always going to be good things that we can spend money on. There's no shortage of that, but what's the focus? So I don't think we've seen that focus, Todd. I think we've been all over the place spending all kinds of money, and I don't think we've seen enough improvement, and we're certainly going to keep pushing for that.
What are you hearing from healthcare workers, people working for the health authority? I'm sure that you hear people who don't want to go on the record, but have concerns, issues. What are you hearing from people in the healthcare sphere itself?
I think that people are getting fed up. I think that we've seen a number of contracts settled in recent years. We saw the nurses get a big bump in pay, and all of that was long overdue and necessary rectification of, I think, McNeil's sort of austerity approach. But what people really want is a good workplace. And healthcare workers are still really struggling under the weight of an incredibly dysfunctional system. And so we still see nurses who are constantly picking up the pieces and really understaffed in various healthcare facilities, particularly in long-term care. We still, hear doctors saying that they, just have too many patients or too much pressure. Those 12 and 14-hour waits in the emergency room, those wear on the staff, in a different way, but sometimes as acutely as on some of the patients. So I think we still have a real challenge. This is part of the reason why we are so committed to this idea of these doctor clinics, because if you read the literature on these, because there's all kinds of folks across the country recommending this as the way forward, they'll tell you the conditions of care are the conditions of work. So if you can build a clinic that has all kinds of healthcare practitioners working together to serve thousands of patients, then those healthcare workers are happy because they're supported and they're connected to each other. And the patients are happy because they're getting medical care. This is the kind of healthcare transformation we need. And so we've seen some movement on recruitment. We've seen some movement on compensation, but the conditions of work are still pretty abysmal, and that impacts patients, and it also impacts healthcare staff.
All right, it's hard to prioritize what's most important because there's so much depends on people's personal experience, obviously. But affordability inevitably has to be at the top of the list. If you don't have enough money to survive, your life is not going to be what it should be, what it could be. And there's all types of metrics which would demonstrate the quality of life erodes the deeper in poverty people are. We've seen a recent report on child poverty from the Canadian Policy Alternatives, Canadian Center for Policy Alternatives. So what's your take on what's your message when it comes to affordability here in Nova Scotia, which it seems to me continues to erode and deteriorate for too many?
Well, we need action, plain and simple. This is part of the reason why we have been so clear that we need to absolutely prioritize housing, because housing is the biggest driver of affordability issues. We have so many Nova Scotians, Todd, who are just barely making it to the end of each month, whether it's paying your mortgage or paying your rent, and that has to stop. So we need supply. That's something that, this government loves to talk about, is creating supply. But we don't have time to wait for that affordability to trickle down, because the supply that's being built is expensive because it's profitable. And that's fine. That's what developers do. They build profitable housing. But we need a focus and a huge, huge effort at building affordable housing and keeping people in their homes in ways that they can afford. And this government has fallen down on that. So housing, number one, absolutely. But when it comes to affordability, there are really simple kind of low-hanging fruit things that the government can do right now. They can waive the tax on groceries, the rest of groceries in the grocery store. We've asked them to do that for years. We have a temporary holiday now. It's making a difference for people. We can waive the tax on essentials. This is something that we talked about a lot through the campaign. Cell phone, internet, the things that people need. We can have a low income power rate. We had folks come together from, including government and experts, and in a coalition, and talk about how we can change power rates so that we can make sure that people aren't living in energy poverty. There's a lot this government can do to make sure that all Nova Scotians can afford the basics and can afford their life and afford to buy their kids Christmas presents this time of year. But we haven't seen a lot of movement on that. And the reality is, even the tax cuts that they talk about, we're 4 years in almost, and we've seen none of that. So I guess it worked as an election promise, and we'll see, a little bit of relief in the new year. But I don't think this government is taking seriously, as you say, Todd, the degree to which those affordability challenges are really impacting the lives of people from one end of the province to the other.
Claudia, appreciate it very much. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and all that good stuff, and we'll talk in the new year.
Okay, thanks so much for having me.
All right, great stuff. Thanks. Take care. Claudia Chender, leader of the NDP and the official opposition. A year in chat with Tim Powers when we come back.
Thanks.
All right. No, it is not Friday. I know it's out of context, but that's okay. Tim Powers is always out of context to a degree. Are you not, Tim Powers?
Isn't that our relationship, buddy? Isn't that how it works? But that's why we're so simpatico in other ways.
Oh, there you go. Simpatico. Very nicely done. Tim Powers, Summa Strategies, Abacus Data, friend of the show, of course. Tim Powers, what might be one or two of your must-watches during the Christmas season, like when it comes to Christmas classics? Do you have anything that you absolutely have to watch? I'm sure you and the little guy have a few.
Oh, the Home Alones. My son bears an uncanny resemblance to Macaulay Culkin. Thankfully, it's not Macaulay Culkin. So we like 1 and 2. I also, as an old school fellow, like Die Hard. You know, you Todd?
Well, not Die Hard. I'm not a Bruce Willis fan at all. I'm not an action genre guy.
You're an action hero to me.
There you go. I'm kind of old school. Keep it simple. Charlie Brown's Christmas. I mean, I know it sounds trite, but I love that. Grinch, Dr. Seuss, It's a Wonderful Life. I'm just a sappy old school guy, Tim.
But I got to say, speaking of the Grinch, Jim Carrey's version of it's really good.
Yes, absolutely.
The remake, we like that too. That he puts a lot of energy and enthusiasm into it. I really like that as well.
Absolutely. Well, I agree. 100%. 100%. So who's the Grinch in Ottawa today?
Well, I guess it depends on your perspective. If you're a member of the Liberal caucus from Ontario and elsewhere, it might be the Prime Minister, because he, as I think you know has been reported, is not going to make a decision over the holiday period. Apparently he's going to go to BC skiing at some point, and we will all wait and see if while he's in the mountains cutting the powder that he comes back and decides to go. But who knows what will transpire between now and then, because Todd, wow, was that not a wild week last week?
It was. How does Justin Trudeau go anywhere at this point in time and have any sense of a normal life? Like, it must be impossible to have any normalcy right now for him.
Well, I don't think he's ever had it, so how would he know it, right? But right now, I mean, look, he can read and listen and watch, and he may be immune to all the media, but he's not immune to the people reaching out to him, I'm sure, saying, you better watch out. Right. Santa Claus may not be coming, and he's telling you why. Why? Because your time is up as leader. But I guess we'll see. I guess we'll just have to keep waiting. I wonder if there will be any more shoes that drop over Christmas. Most people, I think, are just so tired now in the political world at the moment that if nothing happens after today, it's probably quiet until 2nd, 3rd of January, or even January 6th.
How do you think that's wise to go in bunker mode, or do you think that if he were to step up and say, "Look, I'm going to do a scrum. I'm going to answer the questions." I mean, to me, that maybe it's just my personality, but that endears me more to him than going into bunker mode. But what are your thoughts on the choice to go silent here?
You and I think alike on that. God forbid. I think, look, we come from an era where there's an expectation that a leader in the middle of a crisis, be it of his own making or not, speaks to people and tells them what he's thinking and what the path forward is. Prime Minister is not doing that. I can only infer, Todd, that probably means he's doing two things. One, he is legitimately trying to figure out where to go. And two, he's hoping that it, again, being the Christmas season, we're about to get swamped in the sea, which is great, of World Junior Hockey, that people will forget about this for a little while and that somehow that will alter his fortunes. Avoidance, Todd, we've all used it from time to time. He takes it to a new level. But I think, his own party, if you looked at the reports of that Ontario caucus meeting that happened, certainly got the sense that they're dying for him to say something or talk to the Canadian public. So I guess he's concluded that's not in his interest, so he's not going to do it.
Yeah, for sure. Does this kind of speak to politics in general, that all these MPs had, I mean, there weren't many at all who who were outwardly calling for Trudeau. I think there was the Newfoundland member of Parliament in the summer.
McDonald.
That's right.
Started.
Yeah, he was one of only a very, very few that would even breathe any of this type of commentary concerning Trudeau. So I guess it's time to pile on. That's where we're at. It's safe to pile on right now. If you haven't been named to cabinet,
courage,
what the hell, right?
Courage. Well, I give credit, I guess, to Wayne Long in New Brunswick, too. He and Ken McDonald were out fairly early saying this, and Sean Casey across the way there in PEI. But now I think, yes, they're all emboldened by the wind. John Crosby used to have a great quote about leaders and their lack of leadership. He'd say, "There go the people, I must follow them." And I think there go the people stampeding to run Justin Trudeau out of town, and others are now joining that stampede. Whereas, again, people like Ken, Wayne Long, Sean Casey, they were out, at least to their credit, ahead of it.
How difficult do you think this is for a guy like Justin Trudeau on a personal level? I know that people, we lose sight of the fact that these are human beings, and they are, look, it's a human being, and I'm not asking for anybody to sympathize. I get it. Heavy is the crown, heavy is the head that wears the crown. I get that. But how difficult do you think this is on a personal level for Justin Trudeau right now to go through
Probably very difficult. I mean, look, we all get canceled in different ways at different times, right? Yeah. We've all been through that, but neither you nor I, nor I think probably most of the listening audience, unless Stephen Harper and Kim Campbell and Joe Clark are listening, Paul Martin have been prime minister. So it's got to be tough, right? You fight for this your whole life. You develop a mentality of, I can overcome anything, because you kind of have to have that. And then to suddenly realize, if he has that, no, I can't, that's got to be pretty upsetting. So I imagine, though we all know the end comes, we're never quite happy when it arrives, when we don't script it. I suspect that's how Justin Trudeau feels.
Yeah, and for sure. I mean, look, his personal life, he's gone through a marriage separation. I've gone through that. A lot of people have gone through that, right? So it's
tough, and you got kids. And the hardest thing, I think, I'm sure Justin Trudeau wouldn't want us to throw him a pity party, and Conservatives are probably having their heads explode as you and I are talking about this. But he's still a dad. He still has children. His children have, phones and iPads and everything like every other kid. So they're reading every day about, father's got to go, father's got to go. Yes, that's part and parcel of it, but that's still hard. He went through that as a child himself, and part of the argument people are making now, that's why he's somewhat immune to all of the appeals that are being made, because he was taught or conditioned himself at a young age, not to pay too much attention to either sycophants or critics because of who you are and where you've come from.
And he could end all the speculation as well today, right? If it were that tough.
That'd probably be a great relief in some ways. Yeah. Sometimes when you know it's over and you're ready to walk away, maybe he doesn't know it's over, but if you do and you're ready to walk away, the sense of relief can be exhilarating.
Yeah, and maybe, just maybe, he's just waiting for Pierre Poilievre to implode in some way.
Can be, but I think that's been their faulty game plan all the way along. That I think the Prime Minister and some of his immediate team have thought that Poilievre, who has made some mistakes, though still has a 20-odd point lead, would somehow be seen by the Canadian public as Justin Trudeau and his team see him as sort of the brash, undisciplined, raw MP that he was in his early days. And so far, Poilievre's given no real sense that he is that character that Justin Trudeau wishes him to be.
Yeah, and Jagmeet Singh, I mean, look, I'm not sure what can we say about this guy. I mean, it's just it's a sad state of politics, quite honestly, what I've seen out of him.
There go the people, I must follow them, works for him too. Okay. Justin Trudeau's sinking like the Titanic. Now it's time for me to say I'll vote no confidence. But I won't tell you when. It could be in January, or it could be after that. I think Mr. Singh maybe in the early days, did very well with that relationship and benefited from it, but he's been so hesitant to really carve out his own niche in a way that is believable. He's put the NDP in a difficult spot. I mean, remember 2011 when Mr. Ignatieff was thinking the Liberal Party, and Mr. Layton, the late Mr. Layton, was able to carve out the opportunity. Unless something changes dramatically during the campaign, it's hard to see Mr. Singh picking up, Liberal voters who aren't comfortable with Mr. Poilievre because he's been who he's been, very weak and ineffective.
Yeah, indeed, and this idea that he wants to protect his pension. I mean, I hear that he's very wealthy. Jagmeet Singh, can you confirm that, Tim?
I don't know if he's wealthy or not. Well, look, he likes nice things, so that's not a crime.
No, not a criticism, but I've heard people say that he's got $68 million net worth or some crazy amount of money.
Yeah, I don't know. He was a provincial MPP and briefly worked as a lawyer before that, so I don't know if there's family money there or not. I know his father was a psychiatrist, I believe, or was a doctor anyway, so I don't know if there's family money there, but I've not heard of him having the kind of wealth you're talking about.
Yeah, okay. So it could be plausible that the pension might be on his mind, maybe? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, he's not alone in that, but certainly he's fallen into that trap, right? Like, there's a reason a lot of these parliamentarians want to hit that 2-election win mark in 6 years. Yeah. I mean, the only financial reward you can argue they get in the long term is that pension, because, hey, guess what? You and I don't get pensions like that, Todd. Yeah. Nor do most of your listeners.
Yeah, that's right. All right, Tim, I got some other things I want to chat with you about, and we're going to keep you to the top of the hour. We're breaking with tradition, so you can't leave. Even if you have something to do, you got to cancel it. What do you think?
We haven't even talked about Aaron Rodgers' Netflix game on Christmas Day, the great disappointment for Todd. I'm hanging around, buddy.
Okay, pal. Tim Powers, we'll be back. All right, continuing with our year-end chat with Tim Powers, Summa Strategies, Abacus Data, friend of the show. Tim, these tariff threats from Donald Trump, how seriously should we take these?
I think we take them seriously. I mean, why wouldn't we? He's made threats before. He's followed through on some of them. I think we'd be foolish not to prepare for them. We appear to be doing that. I mean, look, Trump is delighting at the moment, Todd, and ridiculing Canada in many different ways and forms. So better to be ready than not.
Yeah, for sure. But it's the wild card of it all, right? I mean, I would think from a business perspective, business owners and industry, they must be on edge right now. And how do you maneuver, I guess? How do you pivot if you're one of these exporters and you're relying on this? I would think it would be a massive state of flux right now for trade.
Yeah, I think all of that is true, but I think you do what actually Doug Ford and Danielle Smith and others are doing as Canadian leaders. You get down in the U.S., you get on the platforms that Trump looks at, like Fox. You talk to governors, you align with states, 34 of them, whose number one trading partner is Canada, and you bring the pressure forward. And as the federal government is trying to do, you pay attention to the other thing he's dangling there, border security, border security, border security. In the midst of all that craziness last week, as you know, Dominic LeBlanc, the new finance minister and minister of 48 other things for 10 seconds, last week announced, was it $1.3 billion? Mm-hmm. So some of that benefits us too. But I think it's playing Trump's game to a certain degree, but using pressure within the United States to bring about change. And some celebrity advocacy, I mean, I don't know about you, Todd, but it's fascinating, right? Trump keeps appointing all of these TV people either to join his cabinet or be his ambassador. Like the guy who created American Idol, Michael Barnett, now is going to be the American ambassador to London. So play to his vanity, right? He's giving you a playbook on how to appease his enormous ego.
Why does Canada have the ultimate responsibility for what goes into the United States? Does it not? Is it not their issue? What enters their border?
It is, but I think particularly because of auto, right, and the central role auto has played in our two economies that predates the free trade agreement, predates even you and I, Todd. I mean, that's really predating something, the auto pact, that's just become such a natural thing. And I don't think Trump has a detailed level of understanding of the intricacies of all of that. Trump rules by bombast, bluster, and bluff, and sometimes blunt instrument. And so he's throwing all of that in there and hoping some kind of response comes from all of that. But we're so integrated in some ways, that's a very good thing. And he's also got this false promise out there, and we've seen it in Canada too, that somehow, there's going to be mass recreation of manufacturing in the central United States, the Rust Belt. That's unaffordable, but he thinks it is.
Electric vehicles and the future of electric vehicles and EV mandates. We know that Trump is going to eliminate all those mandates that were brought in by the Biden administration. Do you think that we need to take a look at it as well to perhaps mirror that? Or what are your thoughts on EV mandates and our federal government, and in particular, potential Pierre Poilievre government?
I think we got to look long game. Though Trump can do a lot of damage in 4 years and shake things up in 4 years, I have to believe whatever you think about climate change and combustion engines, that we are probably moving to a space where new vehicles are coming forward. They're likely to be electronic vehicles. So why wouldn't we try and play the long game there, right? I think we have to kind of balance the immediate term, but be thinking the long term there, and where we invest and what we invest in. And until we extract them, our critical minerals are going to be vital for somebody, including ourselves. So we shouldn't play all of our cards for a short-term poker hand win and look long.
But the investment into EVs and EV batteries and a lot of federal dollars, billions and billions, Honda and other automakers. So we already have played our hand, have we not, to a degree?
We have. That's why I'm saying we don't need to be knee-jerk in, going into some regulatory spiral that maybe doesn't benefit us in the long run. I think, we got to get ready for the tariffs. We know what he's going to focus on there. But we have to also have like a short-term game, which is what we're playing there, a medium-term game of, all right, how do we navigate the next 4 years? And then a longer-term strategy around, all right, we have these riches, what are we going to do with them? And who are our buyers going to be? What can we produce here? How does it benefit us first? So we can borrow some of his mentality on, benefiting your home country first, and think about all of that.
All right, so with all of the things that we just discussed over the last 25 minutes or so, I mean, there's no shortage of doom and gloom out there. Really, there isn't. Is there room for optimism, Tim? I know that you're kind of inherently an optimistic guy. You're a business owner, and generally that's you have to be in order to be in business in the way that you are. What are your feelings moving forward when it comes to the next year?
Yeah, look, politics is a bit depressing. There's no two ways about it. But look, I'll cite the example from my own province, and who knows where it goes. But as you know, we've been governed by the reality of a bad deal on Churchill Falls since I've been alive, just about since many Newfoundlanders have been alive. And now, with a big agreement between Quebec and Newfoundland and Labrador, albeit in its MOU stages, lots of things can undo it. That agreement comes to fruition. That changes the future of Newfoundland and Labrador. So if Newfoundland and Labrador can find and Quebec can find an accord over Churchill Falls, with all of its historical baggage, I remain optimistic that those things can happen across the country, right? Personalities come and go in politics, but I remain optimistic about our people and our passion. People need to get that anger out, Todd. We've been talking about this since COVID. That has to happen. That has to get flushed. There's no two ways about that. But I think people are also getting tired of being angry and pissed off and disheartened, and they want to express it. But I think our natural optimism, survival techniques, and there are examples that I just gave you of things that keep us going forward.
Yeah, and it kind of circles back to where we started, and that's the leader in Justin Trudeau, and perhaps it's necessary for him to exit stage left in order to to allow to usher in all of that you're talking about.
Yeah, it is, right? As it was for Harper to leave in 2015, as it was for Brian Mulroney in 1993, Paul Martin 2005, 2006. So much of politics is leader-centric, and they know it when they go into it. They benefit from it in their early days, and ultimately it takes them down at the end. That will help. People need to feel like, and this is where Poilievre is focusing his message, that they're doing better economically, and that's important, and we have to help people feel better economically. There's a lot of, a little bit more anger and pain about personal economic circumstances, I think, this year than I've seen in a number of years.
Tim, listen, I always appreciate it. I know we joke around a lot, and it's all good, all in good fun. And but I really, really appreciate what you do and your participation on the show. And let's look for many, many more chats in the new year. And Aaron Rodgers sucks. I agree with you on that one.
You didn't have to pander to me today. I love being on the show. I love doing stuff with you. Your team is great. Vanessa, you're one of your producers. She's fantastic. Merry Christmas, happy holidays to you and the listeners. I look forward to chatting again in the new year.
Okay, pal. Have a good one.
Take care. Bye.
All right, Tim Power, Summa Strategies, Abacus Data, friend of the show. Now it's time for you. What would you like to get into? 902-405-6000. Look, I know on December 23rd, probably you're tired of politics, but if you want to continue, look, you can do so. What are your thoughts on that? But something else that I'll throw out there what are your holiday must-watches this time of year? What do you absolutely have to sit down and watch with you, yourself, or your family? What has been your tradition? What are some things that you absolutely have to watch? So whatever else you'd like to get into, 902-405-6000, an open hour when we come back.
Facts.
All right, 902-405-6000, December 23rd, and we're still talking politics. Can you believe this, folks? Hard to believe, right? Usually it's the last thing anybody would want to talk about, and maybe it still is the last thing you want to talk about. But whatever you'd like to get into, look, it's pretty important stuff what's going on right now, and I wouldn't belabor the point if it were not. I just think that when it comes to what the Prime Minister needs to do, what I would like to see him do right now is one of two things. One would be to step up to a microphone, meet the media head on, and take the questions and say, I'm in it for the long haul. This is why I want people to back me. This is why I'm not getting out. This is why I am staying in. And end all of the speculation. Say, if we lose, we lose, but I'm going down fighting. Or step aside, one of the two. But this bunker mode, going out to go skiing out in Western Canada and not addressing the questions head on and leaving it up to your newly appointed ministers to take the tough questions, I think is just a bad look. So what are your recommendations, or what would you recommend to the Prime Minister right now? What would you like to see the Prime Minister do in this obviously very difficult time? And again, as I was chatting with Tim Powers, nobody's looking for any sympathy. This isn't a pity party for Justin Trudeau, believe me. But what do you think he should do at this point? Is it time to move on? I would say it's pretty evident that it is, but if you're not going to, then say that and face the music. So what are your thoughts on all of this, or anything else you got in your mind? Donald Trump, should we take him seriously? He's now talking about the Panama Canal. I saw this story, musing about that, about the United States taking control over the Panama Canal, for goodness sakes, without any real jurisdiction or authority to make that claim. But that's the way Trump rolls. And on a lighter note, and with the season, what are your Christmas must-watches? What are some things, some shows, movies that you absolutely must watch this time of year? I would say for myself, and I talked with Tim Powers, a little trite perhaps, a little predictable, but Charlie Brown's Christmas is a must-watch. The whole message behind it is amazing. It's timeless in its creation and its narrative, I think. The Grinch, Dr. Seuss's version, Obviously timeless. It says so much. I think, again, it stands the test of time. It's a Wonderful Life. Another one I know some of you are probably groaning right now, saying and look, and I get it, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation's great as well. And there are many, many others. So share with us, if you will, what your Christmas must-watches are. What do you have to watch every year? And you do. You make a point. And why? And what do those mean to you? What do those must-watches mean to you? So, again, whatever else you'd like to talk about, folks, on this Monday. I know it's Monday morning. It doesn't feel like it, but it is. 902-405-6000. Let's kick it off with Bill. Why not, Bill? How are you, Bill?
Why not? How am I? Well, I'm up to my ears and all kinds of things here. Just too much on the plate. By the way, that's a nice little introduction song you put on there. That's kind of nice. I like that.
Sure.
Here's where we are. I had a girlfriend who used to take off to Florida every winter, apartment down there, wanted me to go down, never got down. I don't know why, had different reasons. But anyway, bottom line is what we made up for that was in the evening, every couple of nights or so, we'd get on scam or spam or what the heck is Skype. There you go. Skype. We getting old, getting old.
Yeah.
Guys. Anyway, I would gather up and look through all of the songs on YouTube and so on and so forth, and I'd come up with a song, mostly a dance tune that we would enjoy, that you could play with for a couple of days, and I'd come up with another one. So I ended up with about 50 on one lot, and that's for your listeners to have some fun to listen to, whether it's for dancing or just generally enjoyment. Bill Mont's Treasures. So you got that one down, Todd? Bill Mont's Treasures.
What are you saying? Where can people find Bill Mont's Treasures? Online somewhere?
On YouTube.
On YouTube.
On YouTube. Bill Mont's Treasures.
Are you dancing on this, Bill? Can people see you move?
No. You get me there. There's some other areas there to put my name in. There's a few things in there on me. So that's that one. Then there's another one. I actually got 3. My Monty's 111. So there's 2 lots right there that you can enjoy music when you're working or doing something. Or there's some good dance tunes there. Just it's all on YouTube. So it's Bill Mont's Treasures and My Monty 111. So what do you think of that?
I think it's fantastic. I just punched it in. I think it's fantastic, Bill. You never cease to amaze me, my friend.
Well, listen, if I don't get back with you, you have a good holiday, and all the best, of course, and to see if we can get through the new year and take on whatever's coming.
Okay, pal. Thanks, buddy.
Thank you.
All right, take care. 902-405-6000. By the way, tomorrow we will be doing our Christmas songs, your favorite Christmas songs, and playing a lot of them. We'll do that for 2 hours tomorrow. And Steve Murphy will join us from 10 to 11. So how good is that for a Christmas Eve show? Steve Murphy, new recipient of the Order of Canada, by the way, which I'll certainly be talking to him about. And then Christmas tunes, your favorite Christmas songs. This is always a lot of fun and always immensely popular. It's a lot of work for Vanessa. I know that, but she's up for the task, as always. So in the meantime, it is December 23rd. What would you like to get into today? 902-405-6000. Again, 902-405-6000. Len, hello.
So in the meantime, it is December 23rd. What would you like to get into today?
Len, it's...
Again,
I'll just wait until he hears it.
Len, hello.
There you go.
In the meantime, it is December 23rd. What would you like to get into today? Len, it's...
All right, I'm not sure what else I can do. I tried. Len, give us a call back. You know the drill, folks. When you're on hold, you have to listen no longer on your radio or your computer. Listen to it on your phone because the feed going through the phone is in real time, and we've got an 8-second delay because from time to time people call and have a slip of the tongue and say something that we don't want broadcast over the air. So listen, you know the drill. 99% of you know this, but listen on your phone. 902-405-6000. Again, 902-405-6000. That's the way to reach us. We'll get some open lines for you folks. Give us a call. Again, 902-405-6000. What are your Christmas classics, Christmas must-watches, or anything else you'd like to get into? Let's see if Len's there this time. Len, how are you? Len, hello.
Hello, and Merry Christmas to you.
Yes, Merry Christmas. We got you good now. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to ask a question, and I don't want to be talking about getting too much on religious part of it, but I would ask people, why do we have a holiday on the 25th of December every year? And to me, as a Christian, I believe that the holiday represents the birth of Christ the Lord. And to me, that's very important, and we should not forget to have God in our life, because He is the one that's going to protect us and help us through life completely. And the people that don't know what Christmas is all about and why it's a holiday, I think it'd be nice if it'd be a nice question to ask, why do they think it's a holiday on 25th of December? And all I can say now is have a Merry Christmas and all the best to you and your family.
Okay, Len, thank you. Take care. 902-405-6000. Look, I don't want to get into a theological debate at this point in time. I will say this. Look, if that's your belief, if you want to put Christ in Christmas and that's where you're at, then go, power to you. But conversely, if you are not religious in the least, or if you're a Hindu or you're whatever, and you like to celebrate Christmas because it's a time of year that makes you feel good and there's nostalgia and it's a time of giving, I see nothing wrong with that. I see absolutely nothing wrong with that. I don't know why people poo-poo Christmas who say, oh, you're not keeping Christ in Christmas. Well, look, for some people, they're not Christian, or they don't. And again, conversely, if that's what you want, then great, enjoy it. But why get all up in arms over people who don't have a religious component to Christmas? I don't understand that. I really don't. Anyway, that's just me. 902-405-6000. Let's talk to Fred. Hello, Fred.
Yeah, hi, Todd. I'm not talking politics today. It's too close to Christmas. My favorite watches are the Bells of St. Mary with Bing Crosby and the original Christmas Carol with Scrooge.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with those two. Absolutely.
Well, and I'll have a little eggnog and rum with that, too.
Spiced rum, Fred?
Oh, yes. Got to go spiced.
You got to go spiced rum with the eggnog, eh? That's a must.
Yeah. That's all I got to say. I wish you a very Merry Christmas.
Okay, pal. Thanks for the call.
All right, bye.
All right, take care. 902-405-6000. That's the way to reach us. Again, the Christ and Christmas thing, power to you if that's your thing. No criticism here. But I honestly don't understand why people have an issue with people who don't have a religious component to it, but celebrate it anyway. What's the harm? What the hell's the harm? 902-405-6000. That's just my take, as I always say. We'll continue with your calls when we come back. All right, there's a classic. Love it. And again, we'll be playing your Christmas favorites tomorrow. In the meantime, today, talking more Christmas and your favorite Christmas must-watches. What do you have to watch? And Len brought up the concept of keeping Christ in Christmas and admonishing people to do so. And look, if that's your thing, so be it. But here's an email from Patrick. I'll read it and then offer some response. Then we'll go right back to phones. Patrick says, what about the concept of cultural appropriation? If you are not Christian or don't recognize the supremacy of Christ in the Christmas season, are they not appropriating Christian culture? I don't get that. Like that's a little paranoid. I'm going to be honest with you, Patrick. I don't think that there's any appropriation going on by people wanting to celebrate it. They enjoy it because of the giving. All the niceties that are of Christmas is should be what you're embracing. I think that people need to be this whole concept of cultural appropriation. Really, I don't agree with that. But anyway, listen, I appreciate your opinion, but I'm going to respectfully disagree with your concerns. Kelly, hello.
Hi, how are you?
Well, you.
Good, thank you. Just a couple comments, I guess. So cultural appropriation doesn't seem like it has anything to do with whether you choose to celebrate Christmas religiously or not. And I really don't think that it should matter. It's almost 2025. Why are we judging anybody for the way that they decide to celebrate or not celebrate, whether it's religious or not religious?
Yeah, I think it's great when people who are agnostic or of different faiths embrace Christmas. I think it's great.
Well, it's the time of year, in my opinion, where we're supposed to be spreading joy and love. So does it really make any difference?
It shouldn't. It should.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it shouldn't.
And for me, my Christmas tradition I wanted to share was, so every year of my life, I'm 45 years old, I have watched the original Grinch with my father before Christmas. It's something that we do not miss. Even when I lived away, we would watch it over the phone together.
Yeah, and listen, that's a beautiful story without any religious connotation at all, but yet inspired entirely by the Christ story, really, in many ways, right? So why not, right? That's a good example of it right there.
That's exactly it. And like I said, my Christmas itself doesn't involve what we consider to be religious, church, that type of thing, but that doesn't mean that I don't have my own belief system. Yeah. And whether it falls in the category of having Christ and Christmas, it's irrelevant. We're all just, doing what makes us happy and what we can do for other people is all we should be doing at this time of year.
Okay. Thanks, Kelly. Appreciate it. Take care. All right. 902-405-6000. Let's find out what Carl has to say. Hello, Carl.
Hey, Merry Christmas, Todd.
You too.
Thanks for taking my call. I really like the Home Alone New York Christmas. That is just a riot. It is absolutely gut busting. But there's this new one that I've been watching these last few years, which is it's kind of, I forget what year it came out, but anyway, it's not that new. But it's Office Christmas Party. Are you guys having a Christmas party at the office, Todd?
No, that's old school times when they used to. When radio stations would be quite a scene back in the day around this time of year. But no, we're all buttoned up and corporate. Sorry, no, none of that going on. None of those shenanigans going on, Carl, I guess is what I would say.
Well, check out Office Christmas Party if you haven't seen it. That's a wild party.
I'll bet. Yep.
Well, you enjoy the holidays, Todd.
Okay, pal.
All right, talk to you later.
All right, take care. 902-405-6000. That's the way to reach us. Mark, hello.
Yes, good morning, Todd. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you as well, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. I'm calling in regards to when Bill Mott called in last Thursday or Friday. He was talking about the Blue Nose and the shipwreck.
Right, I remember.
And how they never recovered anything. Unfortunately, that shipwreck was so bad, coral reef, the thing didn't stand a chance. Not a splinter was found. But it encouraged me to call in and inquire about a story that I've heard more than once. Supposedly between 42 when it was sold to a trading company and 46 when it sank, it was doing a supplies run of aviation fuel and ammunition from Haiti to Florida. And supposedly off the coast of, I think it's Cuba, it encountered a German U-boat. It surfaces next to the Blue Nose. He gets on a megaphone or whatever they had and says, "Is this the Blue Nose? And what are you doing here?" To which their captain wisely replied, "We're fishing." And he said, "Okay, so due to the love that we have for your ship, we're going to let it go. But if we see it again, we'll show it." And I've looked for evidence of this online. I found a tiny little couple blurbs, but do I remember you guys having a historian on your show regularly at one point?
Yeah, Rick was, God rest his soul. Everybody loves Rick, but Rick was an amateur historian. I would, and that's probably being unfair. He was loved history, and Bill, yes, he had. I don't want to get into names, but there were some historians that he had on a regular basis, in which I really should be talking to more often.
I wonder if any of them listen and are listening to this right now. I wonder if Bill is. I'm sure he is, and if he's ever heard this story. And I just wanted to put that out there for your listeners because it's an amazing story, and has to do with the sailors' bond, which I still. Yeah,
Blair Beat is one of the historians who I've had the good fortune of chatting with as well, author and knows everything. He would be a good source. So that's an interesting story. I will reach out and see if we can verify that, Mark.
Okay, best Christmas movie, Alistair Sim's production of Scrooge. And the only way you can make A Christmas Carol better is A Muppet's Christmas Carol. Two best Christmas movies of all time.
All right. Thanks, pal. Good taste.
Thank you.
All right. Take care. 902-405-6000. Rick, hello.
Hey, good morning.
Hi.
Christmas music, you should know that it's great. And I kind of separated into two separate categories. All the pre-recorded stuff, the stuff was just written down. That was basically written, before the turn of the 20th
like Silent Night, I think would be one of those that was.
And my favorite of all of those would be "Oh Holy Night."
Yeah, sure.
Now it might be "Oh Holy Night," in different languages, but what I like to say is the idea of writing songs depends a lot on the emotion that you're trying to bring to the music, and the idea that you're writing something, I guess, if you're a Christian, you're writing it, to praise the Lord and His birth, was a strong emotion back in those days. And in my view, some of the greatest melodies that were ever created, that kind of, in my view, rivaled classical music.
Yeah, sure. Like Beethoven and Bach and all that stuff.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Just amazing stuff. But the key point is that without the, belief in the birth of Christ, the emotions that are evident in those songs, especially "O Holy Night," I just, I can't believe the melody, the structure of that song is. To me, it's the best Christmas song ever written. And the idea that people really believed what they were doing was in praise of the Lord was a key component, as opposed to some of the great, later 20th century Christmas songs like, all the ones we know, Rudolph and all that stuff.
Yeah, sure.
They were more, commercial or fun.
Yeah, for sure. That's a good point. I think that's a valid point. But that said, Rick, I think both have their place.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm not disparaging one, but I really wanted to mention that.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Deal stuff. Okay.
Yeah, it's a good point. Thanks, pal. All right, take care. 902-405-6000. Give us a call, folks. You were talking Christmas here and your favorite Christmas traditions when it comes to must-watches, Charlie Brown Christmas, on and on it goes. Whatever you'd like to weigh in on, folks, and the whole idea of religion and Christmas. What are your thoughts on that? 902-405-6000. We'll continue with your calls when we come back.
Have a holly jolly Christmas. It's the best time of the year. Now I don't know if there'll be snow, but have a cup of cheer. Have a holly jolly Christmas, and when you walk down the street, say hello to friends you know. And
all right, there you go, folks. 902-405-6000. What are your Christmas favorites, your must-watches? What do you have to watch every single year with your family or yourself or whatever your dynamic or whatever your situation is? I would say for myself that Charlie Brown's Christmas is at the top of the list. We had an opportunity to watch it last night, and it touches the heart in a way that it's predictable. You know it's going to happen, but it just moves you in a certain way. It's just so well done and so inspired. And the Grinch, the original Grinch, of course, for me, Dr. Seuss, that's the same thing. It just moves you in a certain way for whatever reason. You know it's predictable, but it just does. The message is timeless. And then there's a lot of fun stuff as well. National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, and there's all kinds of fun Christmas movies out there as well. So what are your must-watches? What do you have to watch every single year? 902-405-6000. Kirk, hello.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. So first things first, my favorite movie by far is A Christmas Carol and The Muppet, or The Christmas Story, where the kid gets his eye shot out. But I'd like to throw my 2 cents in about who gets to celebrate Christmas type talk.
Sure, go ahead.
So a few years ago, I happened to be in Austria during Christmas time, and they have the Krampus festival. Do you know what I'm talking about when I say Krampus?
I don't.
It's this thing they have in this part of Europe where instead of Santa Claus, they basically put on a bunch of goat fur and they look like demons. And this is part of their Christmas tradition going back hundreds of years, where if you're naughty, you don't get coal, you get kidnapped by the Krampus, right? So it's kind of like the Parade of Lights meets Halloween, and they put on these goat costumes, and if you're out past 10 o'clock, they hit you with a stick. Now, it doesn't matter if you're a tourist, if you live there, or what religion you have, you're getting hit with a stick, right? So they don't make the distinguish between, if you're there, you get hit with the stick. You don't have to, it's like, oh, he's an atheist, don't hit him with the stick. No. Everyone gets hit with it. Conversely here, Christmas is the one holiday where everyone's sort of, it's occupied everywhere, whether you want to celebrate it or not. Mm-hmm. It's here regardless. So, to me, when people say, oh, if you're an atheist, you're an agnostic, you're secular, you shouldn't be having Christmas, it's deeply pitiful commentary. It's not so much about sharing values. It's more like, unless you think the way we think, then you don't get a benefit from any of the nice things that we have. And, we're living in a world, and I'm not an atheist person, but we're living in a world where religion is becoming less and less popular, and now you're going to get on a high horse and tell me, it's like, oh, you don't exactly believe the exact same religious practices that I have, so don't even bother having these holidays. It seems very shallow to me.
Yeah. I tend to agree with what you're saying, Kirk. I align with what your thoughts are for sure. Thanks for calling, pal.
And
go ahead, finish up.
Have a good day. Bye.
No, finish up. Go ahead.
Yeah. So if Trudeau sticks in power and he does his campaign versus if he leaves, what's the future of the Liberal Party really looking like in either way? Because there's no way. It doesn't matter if he resigns or not. There's no way he's going to win the elect. We're going to have a Liberal government either way, right?
No, I would agree with that.
Yeah. So I'm thinking, now it's basically damage control, right? Because all these MPs that are basically, basically throwing him under the bus, or whatever you want to call it, they're not just saving their own careers at this point. They're also saving the Liberal Party as a whole, looking for the future. So I'm just interested in having that discussion too and opening that dialogue for other callers. What's the future of the Liberal Party really going to be like if he runs versus if he drops out?
Yeah, that's a big question, Kirk. It's a tough one for sure. And you can be rest assured that Liberals right now are trying to save their own hide at this point, and that's politics, right? So anyway, thanks for the call, Kirk.
You have a great day.
Okay, appreciate it. 902-405-6000. That's the way to reach us. 902-405-6000. Janet, hello.
Hi. I just wanted to point out, which we seem to have forgotten, I think most of us know it, that Christmas way predates Christianity by many thousands of years.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
As a mainly northern hemisphere Yuletide and praying that the light would come back at the short day of the year.
Exactly.
And also, I might ruffle a few feathers by saying this, pointing out this also. But that Christianity was a politically imposed religion. I think most religions were at some point. And the Romans invaded Britain and appropriated all of the sacred sites and built churches on them, thus kind of coercing people into converting to Christianity. So anyway, so that seems to have been lost in the conversation. So,
yeah, no, absolutely.
Anyway, the fact that it was, all the St. Nicholas, are way pre-Christian, yeah.
Okay, that all said, do you like Christmas? Are you a Christmas person, Janet? Is it something you enjoy?
Well, no, I live alone with no family, and I it's a non-event for me, which I actually enjoy. I mean,
I see. Yeah.
Perverse, but I like it because it's, it's a time for myself.
Interesting. But no, you're bang on.
But I thoroughly encourage everybody else. And also the other thing, from Christian's point of view, they might look at it as was sort of almost indicated in the previous callers. If it celebrates giving and togetherness and family and all the rest of it, and children in particular, if those are considered, thought of as Christian attributes, then why not celebrate that?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, thanks, Janet. Appreciate the call. Take care.
Thank you.
Okay, 902-405-6000. Yeah, the winter solstice, right? Yule is an ancient pagan holiday that honors the return of the sun in Norway. That's where that's the original origin of all of this. So the history of how Christianity embraced it and all of that's interesting, how it was interwoven. But the idea that December 25th was Christ's birthday or something like that is just simply, there's nothing to back that up. 902-405-6000. That said, like I said earlier, if you want to embrace Christianity and the birth of Christ, and that's your main reason for the season, and that's what makes you feel good, then power to you. I have no issues with that. But I also don't understand why you want to commandeer that and take issue with anybody celebrating Christmas of any faith or non-faith. To me, it's a compliment. It should be endearing for you. 902-405-6000. Brian, hello.
Hello, how are you?
Well, you?
Good. So I'm pagan, so we just celebrated the summer solstice on the 21st. It was great. We had a lot of fun. But I'm mostly calling because no one's mentioned Die Hard as a Christmas movie yet.
I think Tim Powers did. I think Tim Powers mentioned Die Hard.
Oh, I think I missed that. Because Christmas doesn't really start until Hans Gruber falls off Nakatomi Tower. That's the true meaning of Christmas.
I'm going to be honest with you. I've never watched any Die Hard movies, but I'm not an action fan. I'm not a big fan of the action genre.
No, that's fair. It's just it's one of those classic Christmas arguments. Is it a Christmas movie or not? The other reason I called, and we're kind of talking about Christmas traditions, and I always love this tradition. It's out of Sweden. I can't remember the town, so I apologize. But there's a town in Sweden that puts up this massive hay-built goat in the middle of town every year at the beginning of December. And the townspeople of this small village, for some reason, burn the goat or try to burn the goat down while city officials try to stop them from burning it down. This tradition has been going on for almost 80 years, and in that 80 years, there's only been 18 years where the people didn't get to burn the goat down for some reason. It's to a point like there's a live camera on it. You can look at it online, and you see people actively trying to sneak in and burn this goat down. If you look up Yule Goat Sweden, you'll find it. I think it's hilarious. It's a lot of fun.
Okay, Brian, thanks for the call, pal.
Swedish. Okay, thanks.
Okay, bye. Take care. 902-405-6000. Vanessa, did you have something you wanted to add to this?
I did. Well, you were mentioning that you usually watch Love Actually, and I had seen a meme over the weekend, and I thought it was absolutely perfect. And especially since you haven't watched Die Hard. Okay. They said, Christmas movie tip, if you watch Die Hard straight after Love Actually, Alan Rickman will be punished for what he did to Emma Thompson. So there you go.
All right, there you go. I'll have to give it a shot. 902-405-6000. What are your must-watches when it comes to Christmas? And of course, people have brought it up, so we're talking about Christianity, and for some that's the reason for the season. But to look for others, it's just about tradition and feeling good and gift giving and all the nostalgia that goes along with Christmas. So, what does Christmas mean to you and your Christmas must watches? 902-405-6000. We'll continue with your calls when we come back.
Feliz Navidad, Feliz Navidad, Feliz Navidad, próspero año y felicidad. Feliz Navidad.
All right, indeed. That is a fantastic song right there. Simple, but amazing, really, and kind of brings you back Talk about nostalgia, right? That's what Christmas is all about, is nostalgia. I shouldn't say it's all about. For many people, it's about nostalgia. It brings you back to a point in time. It brings you back to a feeling. And I get it that for some of you out there, Christmas has become a bit of a drag because of the stress that goes along with that. I understand that, and I've been a part of that. I do. But strip all of that away. What are people looking for when it comes to Christmas? There's something people are hungry for. They're thirsting for, and it's a feeling. It's a feeling that you at one point probably had in your life. And it's nostalgia. And it's about that feeling. That's what people are hungry for. It's about giving. It should be anyway. And that's all good. I think that's great. And the message of Christmas can be and should be and is very positive. And yes, it gets lost in consumerism, and that's what Charlie Brown's Christmas, that's the message and the Grinch. Those two encapsulate that in a way that I can't. 902-405-6000. Yvonne, hello.
Well, sure, I'll go get it.
Yeah.
Hi, Yvonne.
Doing, Todd?
I'm doing well, you?
Not too bad, buddy. Merry Christmas to you and everybody. Anyway, just want to. We're talking about favorite movies.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. I don't know if anybody likes comedy or not, but how about Mrs. Brown's Boys Christmas one?
Oh
That's,
boy, I bet you that's a barn burner.
It's a funny one. I know. I didn't think I'd like that kind of comedy because I don't know. To a certain degree, I'm not a big comedy fan, but when I seen those, some of those are really funny, in my opinion, anyway. So, but yeah, I just wanted to bring up, wish you guys a Merry Christmas and let you know Mrs. Brown's Boys Christmas is it's an awesome one as well.
Okay, thanks, Yvonne. Appreciate it. Take care.
Thanks, buddy. Okay.
All right, take care. 902-405-6000. We got some time for you folks if you want to get a call in. We got some open lines for you. 902-405-6000. What would you like to talk about when it comes to your Christmas favorites to watch? And what does Christmas mean to you in general? What is it about Christmas that means a lot to you, or not, perhaps? And some of you are talking about the religious component to Christmas, and that's fine. And look, if that's your opinion, that's all good. Patrick says for 80s comedy horror Christmas movie, The Gremlins is hands down the best. So if you're into that thing. Jennifer sends this email along, says, let's switch up the religious talk and tell us what your most memorable gift you got from Santa was. Something you really liked and asked for and were surprised, loved, and used it. And for me, the thought that came to my mind when I read the email was a pair of cross-country skis. And I think I was probably 12, maybe 13. Something like that, and I got a pair of cross-country skis, and you want to talk about using something, oh my. I wore those things out. Absolutely love cross-country skiing, and we used to go, me and my friends, up to, around, we went everywhere on cross-country skis, and down hills that we shouldn't have gone down in those skis, because cross-country skis aren't designed for downhill. But we threw caution to the wind, and we were indestructible. Mike, hello.
Yes, good morning. How are you, Todd?
Well, you?
Fantastic, my friend. Look, the favorite or the best Christmas movie of all time is undoubtedly Die Hard. It's got to be the best Christmas movie ever.
Isn't there like a few of them?
Yeah, no, but the first one, the one with the Fujihami Towers, I think it brought in those iconic words from Willis, and I'm not going to repeat them on radio because they're
yeah. Vanessa's saying please don't.
They're not too white; they're pretty green.
Yeah,
but definitely. However, I encourage anyone who liked Die Hard as a Christmas movie to watch the latest and greatest on Netflix. It's called Carry On. I think it was I can't remember who directed it. Nevertheless, it's a second attempt at improving on the Die Hard theme of a Christmas movie, because for it to be a Christmas movie, they have to play a Christmas carol during the movie. So and they meet that point, and it's a pretty good suspense movie. It's kind of cheesy, but it entertains, and it's definitely one for those who like the Die Hard series.
Okay, Mike, thanks for the tip, pal. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and Merry Christmas, my friend. All the best to you and yours.
You as well. Take care. 902-405-6000. Again, 902-405-6000. Phil says, hi, Todd. We found that feeling first time in quite a while. It was at a Mennonite children's concert. The harmonizing gave me chills. That's Phil, our regular listener from Berwick, which I love the town of Berwick, where my dad's from, of course. Quentin, hello.
Hi, I just wanted to call in. I'm getting up to speed now, so people are calling in with their favorite Christmas movie, and I'm picking Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Oh yeah,
and
one of the all-time classics for sure.
Oh, the best.
Steve Martin, of course.
Steve Martin, yeah, and there's a little video clip of Steve Martin years after. Of course, it was just a recent interview with Steve Martin, and he said that John Candy had a thing at the end where he was basically telling Steve Martin that he was basically had no family and nowhere to go, and they had to cut that out of the movie because it was so emotional for Steve Martin that he kept breaking out crying at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And John Candy was a phenomenal actor.
Indeed. It's classic stuff for sure. Thanks, pal.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Take care. Listen, folks, thanks, everybody. We appreciate all of your comments and concerning Christmas and your favorite Christmas watches. Again, for me, I have to watch and have this season watched The Grinch. I don't know it sounds trite, but it is what it is. Maybe it says something about me. Charlie Brown's Christmas and It's a Wonderful Life. Those are the three musts, but I will try Die Hard. I will give it a shot. I'm not an action fan, but I've had too many people tell me that it's a must watch and it's fantastic and it's a great, some people it's their number one Christmas show of all time. So I will give Die Hard a chance. Why not? I'll have some time over the next few days with some spiced rum and eggnog. I'll give that a shot as well. Why not? And tomorrow we will be playing your Christmas music, your favorite Christmas songs, and we'll do that for a couple hours, and it's always immensely popular, so I look forward to that. And by the way, if you want to email me some of those, you can do so. Some of your requests, send me or Vanessa an email, and we'll be happy to get it all queued up for you. Also, as mentioned, tomorrow is our Christmas Eve edition. Steve Murphy joins the show from 10 to 11. So look forward to chatting with Steve as well. All right. When we come back, we're going to wrap up the year that was U.S. politics with Mark Brewer. We'll be back.
Said the night wind to the little lamb, do you see what I see? Do you see what I see? Way up in the sky, little lamb.
All right, I hate to interrupt that nice idyllic moment with talking U.S. politics, but that's what we're going to do. Mark Brewer joins us to talk about all things U.S. politics. A political science professor, University of Maine. Mark, how are you?
I'm good. You're giving the classic rock a break for Christmas.
Just momentarily, sir. Just momentarily. We want to dial things down a little bit when we're going to talk U.S. politics.
Sounds good.
All right. So, my, what a year that it was. January 20th is right around the corner. U.S. politics doesn't really take a break, does it?
Not anymore. If it ever did, I'm not sure that it ever did, but it's certainly no longer the case.
All right. So what's on your top of your radar right now when it comes to U.S. politics?
Well, I mean, obviously the top of not my radar, but everybody else's as well is the return of Donald Trump as president of the United States on January 20th. He'll take the oath, and once he does that, we'll see where he goes. He's made lots of promises of things he's going to do day one, many of which I don't think he can do day one, some of which he can, others of which are unclear. But one thing I think we can say for sure is that January 20th, as soon as he steps off the podium, the action will start.
All right, give us an education on the executive branch and the what jurisdiction the president has unilaterally. What can he do with the stroke of a pen? What are some things that you think are the most powerful things that he can do unilaterally?
Well, I mean, I'll give you a short answer, and then I'll maybe, if we have time, give you a little bit of a longer one. The short answer is that he can do anything that is currently in place with an executive order, whether it was put in place by Joe Biden or any other president previous to Biden. Trump can rescind that, right? So that's undoubtedly true. So if there's anything that's on the books by executive order, Trump can end that with a stroke of a pen, no doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Trump can also certainly enact a huge amount of his promised tariffs with a stroke of a pen. And that's not necessarily because they're in place by executive order, but because over the years, Congress has delegated a lot of trade authority by statute to the President of the United States. So certainly Trump can do, I don't want to say he can do anything he wants regarding tariffs, but his leeway on tariffs is much larger than virtually anybody thinks. So if anybody's out there thinking, oh, Congress has to pass laws on this, I wouldn't hold your breath on that. So, I mean, tariffs certainly are in play on day one. And then if we're talking anything where we're involving Trump's role as commander-in-chief of U.S. military forces, he can do that on day one, stroke of a pen. He can also order a halt to any ongoing federal investigations as head of the executive branch. He could, in theory, order the Department of Justice to begin criminal investigations. There might be a little pushback there, but he certainly has that authority as well. So those are, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. Those are all undoubtedly, he can do that if he wants to. He might be able to go further than that. There's an idea out there, a theory called the unitary executive theory. Some people call it the unified executive theory, which states that the first sentence of Article 2 of the Constitution, or holds rather, that first sentence of Article 2 of the Constitution essentially gives the president unchecked control over the executive branch. Now, lots of people disagree with that theory. I think that would have to go to court, but there are plenty of Trump insiders who are pushing that theory, and Trump's not the first. I mean, Dick Cheney was a big proponent too during George W. Bush's years in office. He's going to push the envelope on that, is my guess. I don't know that, but that's something I think we're going to see, and he'll probably start that on day one, and then we'll see the lawsuits almost certainly immediately thereafter.
Wow, that's quite a list. All right, let's talk about the tariff one first, because it's impacting Canada in a big-time way with the threat of a 25% tariff on all things imported into the United States. Do you think Trump has a basic fundamental understanding of how tariffs work? Because there's concern out there that this will hurt and could hurt and will hurt U.S. consumers and business.
That's a good question. I don't think he has a detailed understanding of how this is going to play out by any means. I would hope that some of his advisors who do are educating him on that. But my guess is that he's surrounded himself primarily with people who are tariff supporters. And so he's probably in that education, if he's getting it at all, he's probably getting a one-sided take on it. So I don't think he has a full grasp of what tariffs could do to the American economy. And it's one thing, to engage in a trade war with China, which is no small matter either. But it's another thing to start this with your northern and southern borders and huge trade partners. And I'm hoping that he does get educated on that before he takes the oath on the 20th. We'll see. But there's no doubt that the impact is potentially huge. And I can virtually guarantee you that even if Trump understands these things better than I think he does, his supporters, the overwhelming majority of them, have no clue really what a tariff means is a massive tax on them for a lot of stuff they buy, which is going to ratchet up inflation, which is the reason why they elected him in the first place, because they thought he'd lower it.
Do you think that could be broadened out to the population in general? Most people out there aren't thinking about tariffs and don't understand what tariffs are, not just Trump supporters?
No, I don't think it's going to extend out until actually they feel it in the pocketbook, right?
Yeah.
The American public, and it's not just the American public. I think, the average person worldwide has a very limited understanding of economics. And so, no, I don't think they'll figure it out until all of a sudden, they start paying more than they're already paying. They're like, well, wait a minute. And then hopefully they'll believe the media when the media are telling them that this is the reason why, although since they don't believe the media anymore, especially Trump supporters, who knows what they'll end up believing.
Well, that product that they're getting they don't have the scaled up manufacturing capability in the United States to deliver, and things start costing a lot more money. It's going to be pretty evident pretty quick, because the theory that Trump is espousing out there or disseminating is that if tariffs are steep, we won't buy foreign goods, so therefore we'll make our own. But you know as well as anybody, you don't scale that up in a day or a month or even a year. That takes a lot of preparation, and there's going to be a lot of pain in the meantime.
Oh, for sure, right? And you know, I mean, if you were really trying to sell this to people as a long-term strategy, say, hey, look, you know, we've got a 10-year plan to bring back domestic manufacturing capacity across all sectors of the economy. I'm going to promise you that in the long run, this is going to benefit us. I'm also going to tell you that the first few years of this are going to be painful. You're going to face higher prices. You're going to face shortages of certain goods. But if you stick with it, we're going to be better off. Then it doesn't mean I'd agree with it, but at least people are not being sold a bill of goods, right? They're being told what's actually going to happen. Trump's not selling it that way. He's just selling them immediately. Jobs will come back. Domestic manufacturing capacity will reappear. It'll be Buy America again, and everything's going to be great. Well, no, it's not true, but people don't understand that.
Okay, what about people like Elon Musk? And say what you want about him. I mean, obviously he would have a pretty good understanding of how all this works. Would there not be somebody that might be raising concerns or issue a warning call here? Well, I mean, you have to wonder what Musk is doing here, right? I mean, as you said, Musk is an incredibly successful businessman and strategist. You got to wonder though why did he spend hundreds of millions of dollars to get Trump in office? Why is he spending his time being kind of the first buddy, weighing in on policy? There's a lot of people that think China might get treated differently here because Musk has very close ties with China on a whole bunch of things for his companies, and so maybe what Musk is going to envision is places where he doesn't have any interests. Hey, go ahead and stick high tariffs there. Places where I have some economic interests, maybe we treat them differently. I have no idea what Elon Musk's motivation is, but I can't imagine, even as rich as he is, that he's spending hundreds of millions of dollars out of the goodness of his heart. I just can't see that happening. Yeah, for sure. And also when it comes to EVs and the future of EVs and one of the executive orders, I do believe, are EV mandates by a certain year that the manufacturing would be required to hit certain criteria. So if you own Tesla, you have a pretty vested interest in not seeing that happen, do you not? Sure, you absolutely do. And also, given what we know about EVs in China, where they're cranking out much lower cost EVs, and you would think that for Musk there, maybe tariffs on Chinese EVs are super important, right? And there's already some in place, so you want to keep those up. If not, keep those in place. If not, ratchet them up, right? So, Musk has got a lot of irons in the fire that can be impacted by federal government activities, not just his economic interests, but also investigations into his various companies for all kinds of practices. You don't have to squint very hard to see what's in this for Elon Musk. Looking at the definition of an oligarch, a ruler, or rather a very rich business leader with a great deal of political influence, particularly with reference to individuals who benefited from the privatization of state-run industries after the collapse of the Soviet Union. I mean, not to suggest that he's a communist or anything, but that meets the definition pretty closely, does it not? For Musk? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, for sure. He's, you could certainly draw some similarities, at least if this plays out the way that some people think it is, between the Russian oligarchs post Soviet Union fall and Musk and his relationship with Trump. Now it's early on, and who knows how far this is going to progress. I mean, my guess is before it gets too far, Donald Trump can't handle anyone else getting as much spotlight as he gets, and right now Musk is getting a lot of spotlight. When the continuing resolution to avoid the federal government shutdown failed last week, there are all kinds of people saying, well, Elon Musk is really in charge. It's not Trump. And that made Trump bristle. So I wouldn't be surprised if this relationship falls apart sooner rather than later. But for right now, Musk is perhaps the biggest voice in Trump's ear.
And if that gets him some of the things that we think he might want, then yeah, I think the comparison, even though it's not perfect, certainly has some value to it.
Okay, lots else to get to. We'll be back with Mark Brewer after the break.
Oh, holy night, the stars are brightly shining. It is the night of our tears.
All right, Mark Brewer, political science professor, University of Maine, joins us. He was doing the tenor in that part. Did you hear? Mark Brewer, nice tenor, by the way. I like that.
You wouldn't want to hear that. I can guarantee you.
All right, Canada as the 51st state. This is something that Trump is quipped about. I think everybody knows that he's not serious, but there's a few schools of thought here. My particular viewpoint of this is that, look, it's I don't know, it's unbecoming of the office, and I know he's not the president yet, but it's so lowbrow. It's just unbelievable that he's got to go there. What are your thoughts on his quipping and his jabs at us in Canada here?
Yeah, I mean, generally, it's not only is it not good etiquette, but it's not a good idea to mock one of your closest allies, both economically, militarily, really, virtually any area you want to look at. Canada is one of, if not the closest ally the United States has, and so generally you don't want to foul that relationship. Trump, as we know, does not follow kind of what other people follow. So I don't know. I mean, it's certainly, his supporters love it, right? His supporters love him, kind of, showing strength and not caring about what other people think. And, Canada's ripping us off and Mexico's ripping us off and China's ripping us off and he's going to straighten this out. I think it's terrible. That's on my own personal opinion. It's going to make the relationship between the U.S. and Canada, harder to engage in, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
You could also make the argument, I'm no Canadian politics specialist by any means, but from what I'm reading about what's going on in Canada right now, it certainly seems like he's destabilizing Canadian politics a little bit, right? You've got a bunch of cabinet ministers who are resigning. It sounds like there's going to be a no confidence vote. Trudeau's
he's on the way out.
Minority governing partner.
He's on the way out. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not good. So, I mean, generally, democracies don't like to mess around in other democracies' domestic politics. That's something that's reserved for places like Russia or China or Iran. It's going to make our diplomats' jobs harder, not only with Canada, but with everybody, right? I mean, there's a really interesting piece, and I apologize, I can't remember the author, but who essentially said, was making the argument, and I read it last week, that the United States has been able to be a force, net positive in the world, because it is able to ask its allies to do things and its allies go along. And if Trump keeps doing this, our allies, even if they stay our allies, are going to be less willing to go along with what Trump's doing. So I think it's not good for the U.S. It's not good for Canada. I mean, it's probably good for Trump, and that's really what matters for Trump, right? But for anybody else, I don't see it being a win.
Yeah, some might say that it's a win because it got action in that the public safety minister here in Canada is pouring $1.3 something like that $1 billion into border security and buying drones and beefing up patrol. So some might say, look, it worked. It got action that otherwise wouldn't have happened. So there's always that. What's your response to that?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose, right? But I mean, the number of people crossing into the United States from Canada without documentation, does it exist? Sure. I mean, my parents are originally from Plattsburgh in upstate New York. That's one of the largest places where people come across the border without documentation. But it pales in comparison in terms of the number of people who are coming across the southern border. So is making the border more secure a good thing for both places, both sides? Sure. Is it the best use of resources to deal with a problem that, by all accounts, is relatively minor on the northern border? Yeah, I guess. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think when you net it all out, I think it's going to be a negative, regardless of. And I know some of Trump supporters would disagree with me, but I think you net it all out, it's a negative on the whole.
All right, so I would think that obviously the electoral cycle, the election cycle is key here, and we know that you got midterms in the United States, and that's going to be where the rubber meets the road, because in a couple of years, we're going to have a pretty good sample size of what a Trump 2.0 is going to mean here. What are your thoughts on those who are seeking re-election on the Republican side of things, and how nervous they might be, how some of this stuff all goes?
Well, I'm sure, that many Republicans will be nervous, right, about this, and for precisely the reason you just pointed out. Now, there will be plenty of Republicans, probably a majority of Republicans, certainly in the House, and to a lesser extent in the Senate, who really have nothing to worry about, right? Their districts are so heavily Republican. The only way they could possibly be threatened would be in a Republican primary, and if they're Trumpy enough, which is what they're being, they're not going to get primaried, right? So those people are fine. But it's going to be those Republicans in either swing districts or, that are more, what are now being called, mainstream, old, traditional Republican districts. Those folks could find themselves in a whole host of trouble if, the first 2 years of, as you said, Trump 2.0 go the way that a lot of people think they're going to go. Those people could be in a real pickle come November of 26. And I think that's what Democrats are hoping for. At this point, they're just hoping, to hang on, avoid the worst for the next, 18 months, because it's really not even 2 years, because the last, 3 or 4 months before the election, nothing will get done. So you just got to hang on and hope that Trump does so badly that Democrats are able to retake Congress and then wait for 2 more years and take the White House back. It's
kind of a sad commentary, though, that they hope that because Trump doing badly means that a lot of Americans will do badly as well, right? And that's the sad commentary on all of this.
That's true. There's no doubt about it. I mean, this idea that, the parties should come together to govern for the greater good, not only, does it not exist, you find very few people even paying it lip service anymore, right? Yeah. Each side believes that their version of what they want to happen is not only better, but it's the only one that's good. And so you have very few people who are willing to work together. There are some still, to be fair, but they're fewer than the people who are unwilling to do so. And so I suspect the next 18 months is going to be pretty rocky.
Indeed, Mark. Always great. Listen, I appreciate it very much. Always appreciate your participation. Merry Christmas to you. Happy New Year. And let's have many more chats in 2025.
That sounds good, Ted. Merry Christmas, and I'll talk to you next year.
Okay, pal. Take care. Mark Brewer, University of Maine political science professor. It will be an interesting year. There's no doubt coming up. And January 20th, who knows with the stroke of a pen what executive orders Donald Trump has in store. And we will be watching for the tariff threat. It looks like he's going to follow through with that, folks. It really does. It's scary. We'll get Don Desserud's take on all of this when we come back.
Thanks.
You're a mean one, Mr. Grinch. You really are a heel. You're as cuddly as a cactus. You're as charming as an eel, Mr. Grinch. You're a bad banana with a greasy black peel.
All right, that's quite an introduction for Don Desserud, political science professor, UPEI. Don, that is not a commentary on you, I can assure you of that.
Thank you. Wonderful song, though. I still have memories of watching that show, that cartoon as a kid. So.
Yeah, what a vocal, eh? Unbelievable voice.
Yeah.
All right, so listen, the Grinch that stole Justin Trudeau's Christmas is who?
Yeah, I don't know whether you can blame any one person. I guess Chrystia Freeland is the person that pushed things over the edge, as they say. But this has been going on for a long time. I mean, how many times have we talked about, well, this by-election defeat, that's going to be the end, or this next by-election defeat, that's going to be the end, or these letters from from caucus members, Liberal caucus members, that's going to be the end. None of these things have actually brought down the Prime Minister. He's still there, and he's still not telling us what his plans are, though I suspect that he doesn't know himself right now. But I suppose, the person who immediately upset his Christmas plans would be Chrystia Freeland.
Yeah, for sure. So let's talk about Trudeau not addressing the media, going into bunker mode in a big-time way, sending out newly appointed cabinet ministers to take the heat. What are your thoughts on his decision or his strategy to not say anything at this point?
Yeah, not a good strategy, and not in his character. We always talk about his ego, and the fact that he doesn't always know or care what other people think about him, or maybe that's not quite the way I want to put it. He surrounds himself with people who tell him what he wants to hear. But as a consequence, he's normally quite oblivious to the fact that if he has to be interviewed, for example, he's going to be asked difficult questions. He seemed to think that he can always handle them. We're hearing, by the way, that he's refusing calls, or his staff are refusing calls from any MP that is not demonstrably on side in supporting him. So he's really shielding himself off. Normally, when I'd look at that, is I'd say, okay, he is about to make a big decision, and he wants the time to make it and get it right before he announces it, and any kind of distraction will put him off from that. But he's simply feeding into the narrative that he's lost grip, and that he's no longer the person in charge.
Yeah, which is really, like you said, out of character for somebody like him. It must be very difficult for him on a personal level to set aside all of those instincts that has got him to where he is today. I could imagine on a personal level this has got to be very, very difficult. And again, not trying to evoke any sympathy for Justin Trudeau, but look, this has got to be tough.
It's got to be tough. But he does have exemplars from the past. He's not the first prime minister whose popularity dipped down towards the end. He's not the first prime minister who eventually decided that it was time for him to go, even before a defeat. We have seen that with his own father, who weathered all sorts of ups and downs in terms of his popularity, but at the end of the day, made the decision that what he thought was right for himself and right for his party. So this is not uncharted territory, though obviously he wants to leave, with some sort of reputation intact. 6 months ago, even a year ago, people were telling him that this was a good time to do that if that was his plan, because people would move on, and frankly, they still will. I mean, if he resigned tomorrow, it's not 5 years from now. People will look back and they won't say, what a disgrace that was. That's not the way collective memory works. So yeah, it must be tough. It's tough right before Christmas, of course. But I don't at this point. I don't see what other option he has.
Okay, Chrystia Freeland and her political capital, has it gone up or down or neither?
Yeah, a week ago I would have said it's gone down, though I would not have thought that it was going to go down too far, that it would come back. It seems to be coming back up again. Now everybody's talking about her as the next possible leader. That's an interesting question, by the way, and maybe one that you're going to ask me next. Who wants this job right now? And because whoever wants this job, what they're afraid of course, whoever takes over, we're assuming that Justin Trudeau steps aside. If he does step aside, whoever takes over is going to be looking back at people like Kim Campbell. You take over from an unpopular government, but you're going to be the savior. And wow, did that ever not work well? Mm-hmm. So the people who are looking at this situation now are doing one of two things. They're saying, if I take over now, can I rescue the party? We probably won't win. And Chrystia Freeland, I think, almost made that very clear that they didn't think they were going to win. But could they rescue the party so that this leaves as a base to build upon? And if you do that, are you going to be the person that's credited with that? Or are you going to be the person that is tagged with having lost the election and having suffered this incredible defeat, the way Kim Campbell was? So there are people out there right now who are hoping someone else takes it on the grounds that with the idea that after the next election, that's when they will then put themselves forward as the new leader. And I don't know what camp Chrystia Freeland is in right now. She may be thinking longer term than shorter term.
Yeah, my instinct on Chrystia Freeland is that I can't see any way that the Canadian public en masse supports her to a minority or majority government. That's just my instinct. I just think there's too much damage there when it comes to a record, and too closely linked with Justin Trudeau with the carbon tax. That's my take. What's your instinct on that?
Yeah, and I don't think anyone, unless they're really, really, I'll say optimistic, that'll be my diplomatic word, believes in the Liberal Party that they can actually rescue the next election. Best they can do is limit the magnitude of the defeat. Right now, if there was an election, I think it'd be fairly obvious that the CPC would win. The Bloc probably will be the official opposition, and the NDP and the Liberals are vying for third spot. So what do you want to get out of this? Do you want to have something where you have at least seats strategically placed across the country that you can build back again, or what exactly is your strategy going to be? But to suggest that someone like a Freeland or a Carney or a Dominic LeBlanc can come in and actually win the next election, I think that scenario was pretty far-fetched.
How close do you think it was to Mark Carney being the finance minister? Was that locked and loaded, and that was destroyed by Freeland's letter, or what? How close were they with Carney? Nobody's saying anything, but what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I thought from the beginning that Carney was basically saying, look, I don't mind helping out, but coming in as a finance minister without a seat, then what am I going to do? I'm going to run the next election, which you're going to lose, and then what am I? I'm in a third, fourth place party. So I never took that seriously that he was interested in coming in as finance minister, though as one analyst did put it in one of the interview shows that I was watching. He said, well, whatever. That's a line on your resume. Whether you're a finance minister and you don't, even for a short period of time, does Mark Carney need that line on his resume? No. The other new ministers, I think that would apply to them. So I never took that all that seriously. So my guess is that this was never locked and loaded. And if the Prime Minister thought it was, then he was reading the signals incorrectly.
All right. So what was the game plan then?
Well, I think he did want someone like Mark Carney to come in. What I don't understand is, and I think we're getting this bit by bit. There is something else going on between Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and Chrystia Freeland that is not simply about being finance minister, or not simply about her position in the cabinet, or even her leadership ambitions. That there's something more personal there. She was getting more and more frustrated. I'm guessing that he wasn't listening to her advice. The fact that he was courting Mark Carney, I think she took that as an insult. But if she was supposed to be the lead person on dealing with the United States, that I still think that would be a fairly important and prestigious position for her to take on, and I think she's shown herself to be quite adept at that. So the fact that she behaved the way she did, there's something more there. I think basically she literally did lose confidence in Trudeau's ability to see what's the reality of the world, and was becoming increasingly frustrated with the direction he was taking that government.
Okay, what are your thoughts on how Pierre Poilievre is playing all of this?
Yeah, I don't think I think he's got a bit of a dilemma in a sense. It's almost an embarrassment of riches, and I'm not sure that he knows exactly how to play it. A lot of this obviously has to do with concern over the tariffs, concern with having Trump in the White House, concern with Trump's attitude towards Canada. His basically bullying and jibes against the Prime Minister, and I'm not sure that Pierre Poilievre is confident that he would fare much better better. And quite frankly, I don't think that he would. So he has to be very, very careful on how he plays that card. He has to be very, very careful how he plays the Freeland card, because here's a person who has said things about the Prime Minister that he would agree with. On the other hand, he has been very critical of Freeland. So he seems, frankly, to be scrambling a bit. I don't think I think this is coming way too quickly for him. I think he would much prefer to go into an election and fight against Justin Trudeau, and he's not sure now who he's going to be fighting against. He's still in the driver's seat, of course, but it's interesting to watch him. There's a lack of clarity that we haven't seen before.
Yeah, and now he doesn't have the platform of question period either, which is kind of where he's been in his wheelhouse as of late, right? So you take that stage away, and then what do you have? You have a mic and jabs at to a scrum, and after a while, there's a tune-out factor there.
That's right. I mean, you can only use so many what he considers clever little quips so often before they become trite, and that's what's happening now. And then people just stop listening. So you can sort of see now he's trying to go after Jagmeet Singh to hope that he gets somewhere there. But he's not going to generate any kind of support with that fight. Jagmeet Singh is hardly a threat to, and the NDP is hardly a threat to the CPC right now.
Yeah, for sure. And Jagmeet Singh, his future obviously is I would dare say as leader, this is it for him as well. I mean, it doesn't look good for him as future leader of the NDP, I would dare say. What are your thoughts?
No, I think this will be his last election, and I'm parsing very carefully his statement that when the House comes back after the Christmas recess that he's going to table a vote of non-confidence against the government. I find that wording to be very, very interesting. He did not say I'm going to support a vote of non-confidence against the government. He's going to table his own, which I think he thinks gets him out of a problem. So when the CPC, when Poilievre tables that motion, will he support it? He can say no because we want to do our own. But I think basically he's paying himself into a corner because that's going to come across as kind of odd. But what he's trying to do here is saying that he will do it on his terms, and his terms, if he has his way, will not be till the end of the next session. If I want to make a prediction, in which case it'll be kind of redundant anyway.
Do you think that at some point there's some room for another party, and Dominic Carty, of course, is forming a centrist party? I guess I haven't heard a lot about that, but anyway, what are your thoughts on the room for another fresh look party?
Our system isn't particularly kind to new parties, but when you look at the polls and you dig a little deeper about just how enthusiastic people are about politics in Canada right now and about any of the leaders, the answers they're not, and as a consequence, you never know. A party that managed to collect people from dissatisfied people or disaffected people from different parties might actually succeed. How many of us thought the Reform Party would become the Canadian Alliance Party, would become the CPC? I mean, things like that do happen, I suppose. But as you say, that there hasn't been much attention paid to Carty's initiative. He actually worked for the Democrats in the United States, mm-hmm. going way back, and he has an idea of a kind of a centrist party that has a broader base appeal than any of the parties we have right now. So, we'll see. I'm always encouraged by people who at least think that they can succeed this way, because in my mind, the more voices, the better. But it's a tough road for new parties, given the entrenched way that our party, our system entrenches parties.
Yeah, it's probably a good time for Christmas break. Everybody can dial back the rhetoric and the tone. Probably Justin Trudeau is thanking his lucky stars that it's December 23rd right now, and he can get out of Dodge.
That's right, and he, I don't know, to overuse a cliche whether he'll take that walk in the snow, but I'm assuming that he'll be spending a lot of time being very contemplative.
Indeed, Don, always great. Listen, I appreciate it. Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, and all that good stuff, and we'll talk again.
Thanks. Same to you. Thanks very much.
All right, take care. Don Desserud, political science professor, UPEI. It's time to give. We know that it's the giving season, but giving blood is also should be on our minds as well, and we'll get to that when we come back. All right, Corey Matheson joins us, Community Development Manager with Canadian Blood Services. Corey, thanks for joining the show. We appreciate it.
Good afternoon, Todd. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. Yourself?
Oh, not too bad. Enjoying a little bit of sunshine. It's a little chilly, but beautiful day out there.
Indeed. Okay, let's talk about December 24th to January 3rd. Very challenging days to book appointments for people to donate blood, right?
It is, and we do run into this every year. This year seems to be particularly low. I don't know what's going on. I know there is some colds, some sicknesses around that I've heard of. I don't know if that's part of it. I know winter sometimes in general can be challenged, and I know this year we put together a challenge called the 450 Challenge. It's right across the country. What that means is we're looking for 450 new donors per day coming in across the country to donate, because we've got to build up that donor base. A donor base is aging out at certain points across the country, and we want to get those numbers back up. So it's particularly important over the holidays. I know, like you just mentioned, Todd, December 24th to the 20, we'll say right into New Year's, actually. Mm-hmm. Our numbers are down. I know I got a list of appointments here, availabilities. In Halifax, particularly December 26th, we've got 49 open appointments still, and on Boxing Day. And then the Friday, there's 26. And then if you want to move ahead to the week after, from the 30th to the 1st, we've got over 100 open appointments on December 30th into January 1st. So we really encourage anybody that hasn't donated. It's a great time to to come out and donate and be part of the 450 Challenge. You can look up, there's information online. If you go to blood.ca/450, you'll find out the info about that. And, we're asking the current donors to tell their friends about this. We've got our regulars that come in, and we really appreciate them. But it's, if they can spread the word, that would be great as well.
Yeah, the need doesn't take a holiday, right? Obviously.
No, you're right. And, that was our tagline for many years, and it's still, it has not gone away. It's still there for sure. It's even during the summer months, we run into this too at different times between, June and September. But no, this year I find our numbers are a little lower. We do have a few mobiles too. And I know, you guys have some listeners all down through the province, and we're in Windsor at the Legion on Boxing Day also. Windsor, 12 to 3, 5 to 8 on Boxing Day. And we've got, I think it's 50 appointments roughly open there still for people to donate that want to. So anyway, we even have a clinic on, like you said, it does not take a holiday. Kentville, January 1st, we're there on New Year's Day with a clinic. So that's something new. We didn't used to run a lot of mobile clinics on New Year's Day, but this year we needed the blood. So there's still 27 appointments open in Kentville for anybody down there listening. So we've got options, Todd.
Yeah, for sure. People who are celebrating a lot, regaling, I don't know how else to word this, but if you're hungover, can you still give blood?
Well, luckily that the clinic in Kentville, it runs from 1 to 3 in the afternoon and 5 to 8 in the evening on New Year's Day. So hopefully if somebody's donating, they might not go all out on New Year's Eve. I'm not telling people not to have fun, but
sure.
If you are thinking about donating blood, try to keep it maybe to just a few and don't go overboard possibly. They're there 1 to 3, 5 to 8 on January 1st in Kentville. And I know we're open in Halifax too on January 1st. And it's an afternoon clinic. It's 2 to 6 at the Bears Road Center, and that's on January 1st. And there's 68 appointments open that day. So
okay, all right. So again, a reminder for everybody who's listening and just tuning in, if they want to know all these details, again, give them all the details, Corey, please.
Yeah, so we're open over the holidays at the permanent clinic on Bears Road, and the only day we're not open is Christmas Day, but we're open the rest of those days. The hours vary depending on the day, but you can go to blood.ca online to book an appointment, to even find out the times. And also there's an app you can download as well, the Blood app, which is a great app, and you can keep track of how many donations you have on that app, and it gives you some other info that's very interesting also. So, yeah.
Okay, Corey, listen, let's hope we did some good, and let's get people out there and motivated. It's very important. Obviously, goes without saying. Thanks, Corey.
No, thanks, Todd. Happy holidays, everybody. Take care now.
All right,
Bye-bye.
You take care. That's Corey Matheson, Community Development Manager with Canadian Blood Services. And absolutely go to their website and find out ways in which you can make an appointment. Once you do so, you'll love it, and you'll do it again. You'll be a repeat donor for sure. That's the way it works. Once you give, you get the You get the spirit of the thing. So get out there and do it. I'd like to thank Vanessa Vandeness, of course, on the other side of the glass. The control board doing a fine job as always. Thanks, everybody, for listening. We're back tomorrow with our Christmas Eve edition of the show. See you then.